In a kingdom where omegas are nothing but shadows. One woman carried more than just a child. She carried the power to change fate itself. When the Alpha King was betrayed, left bleeding beneath the cold moon, it was she, the forgotten, the unwanted, who reached out and healed him. But love born in blood has a price. And when her child's heart begins to glow beneath her skin, the world will remember that even the lowest omega can make the moon weep. She was broken, pregnant, and abandoned, until saving the dying Alpha King made her his fated mate. In a cruel kingdom where omegas are treated as nothing, a poor, pregnant omega named Lyra stumbles upon the Alpha King, gravely wounded and hunted by his own pack. Desperate to survive for her unborn child, she saves him unaware that her blood holds the rare power to heal an Alpha's soul. As he awakens, bound to her by fate and gratitude, the Alpha King realizes the omega he should despise is the one destined to save not only his life but his heart. But when the pack learns that the king's savior is an omega and carrying a child that isn't his, love turns into rebellion, and destiny demands a terrible price. Welcome back, Moonlight Dreamers, and if you're new, welcome to our world where stories don't just find you, they claim your heart. Where the full moon exposes more than secrets, it awakens forbidden love, fierce loyalty, and a passion that burns brighter than fate itself. Have you ever wondered what happens when fate drags two souls together in the darkest night? Tonight, you're about to meet a pregnant omega who risked everything to save a dying Alpha King, a man betrayed by his own pack. What she doesn't know is that one touch will change both of their lives forever. Welcome back, Moonlight Dreamers. And if you're new here, like, subscribe and hit the bell, because here, stories don't just find you, they claim your heart. The forest was alive with shadows, the silver moon weeping through the branches. Every leaf trembled as if the world itself knew a terrible secret. Somewhere among the twisted roots and mist, a man stumbled, his golden armor cracked, his crown gone, his life bleeding out with every step. The Alpha King. Betrayed by his own pack, hunted by his own blood. And then, a faint flicker of light appeared. Lyra. A poor, frightened omega, pregnant and hiding from hunters who would have killed her and her unborn child without a second thought. She froze at first, her heart hammering. Touching an alpha uninvited meant death. But his shallow groans, the way his blood darkened the earth beneath him, something inside her refused to leave him there. Her hand shook as she tore a strip from her worn cloak, pressing it over his wound. The cold metal of his armor was nothing compared to the warmth that flared from her palm, her own blood glowing faintly where it touched his skin. The forest stilled. The wind ceased. The golden light crept into the wound, stitching it closed like sunlight caught in veins. Lyra staggered back, gasping. What had she done? Then the Alpha King's chest rose sharply. His fingers clenched. His eyes snapped open. Molten gold, brighter than any torch, staring straight into her soul. He gripped her wrist with strength she didn't think he had left and whispered her name. Lyra. Her breath caught. How do you know my name? The moon dimmed behind a cloud, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Something ancient had awakened. And neither of them would ever be the same. The golden eyes of the Alpha King fixed on Lyra, and for a heartbeat, the forest seemed to disappear. He should have been dead, yet she had healed him. An omega. A low-born, pregnant omega. And somehow, she had done the impossible. Lyra's hands shook violently. She tried to step back, to run, to escape the king whose gaze was heavy with both awe and something darker, suspicion, anger, disbelief. I don't know what happened, she whispered, clutching her belly. I didn't mean to. But the king's wound ripped open again, crimson spilling down his chest. A hiss of pain escaped him. He gritted his teeth. Stay. Don't leave me, he ordered, his voice rough, torn between gratitude and contempt. Lyra froze. He wanted her to stay. Her pulse spiked. He was an alpha, a king, she was an omega, poor and hunted. She should run and leave him to die, yet some part of her refused. I can help, she said shakily, stepping closer. Her blood tingled, responding to the heat of his wound, the sharpness of his pain. Every instinct screamed danger, every instinct screamed run. But the baby in her womb stirred as if sensing the danger, urging her forward. The king's eyes narrowed. Do you know what you are? His golden gaze burned into hers. No omega has ever healed an alpha this way. If you knew, you would be terrified or dead. Lyra's breath caught. I am terrified, she thought. But she wasn't dead. Not yet. Not if she could help him. A rustle of leaves snapped her out of the tense moment. Her heart lurched. The Alpha King's jaw tightened. They're coming, he whispered, his own warriors, loyal to the pack, hunting him down as a traitor. Lyra's eyes widened. They would kill her too, if they discovered she had touched him, healed him. Her mind raced. There had to be a place to hide him. A hut nearby, small, ramshackle, but just enough to shield him from prying eyes. Together, they staggered through the misty forest, shadows pressing in from all sides. Lyra guided him to her hut, pressing the door shut, her hands trembling. Outside, the snapping twigs and low growls told them the hunters were close. The king gritted his teeth, eyes flashing gold again. You saved me, he said, voice low and dangerous. But if they find us, you will regret it. And in that moment, Lyra realized, hiding him might not be enough. The sounds of armored footsteps grew louder. The hunters were almost at the door. The footsteps outside slowed, but the forest remained alive with danger. Lyra pressed her back against the door of her tiny hut, guiding the wounded Alpha King to the floor. His golden eyes darted around, alert, calculating every shadow. The hunters were close and they would not hesitate. Lyra's hands trembled as she tore strips of cloth from her cloak to bind his wound. The forest mist crept beneath the hut's wooden planks, chilling her skin. She pressed her palm to the gash again, her blood glowing faintly as it seeped into him. The light pulsed, warm and alive, and the Alpha's breathing eased. Then, something stirred inside her. A soft kick. Her unborn child. The king's gaze sharpened. He leaned closer, ears picking up the rhythmic thump of her heartbeat and the kick of her child. For the first time, he felt a pull not just to survival, but to something deeper. His wolf stirred. Suddenly, a crashing sound. The door shuddered under the weight of his own warriors. Open up, a harsh voice demanded. The traitor king is inside. Lyra froze. She swallowed hard. There was no time to explain. The Alpha's breathing grew ragged, his wolf snarling, deep inside him, warning of imminent danger. With a steadying breath, Lyra threw herself between the door and the king. He's dead, she gasped, barely keeping her voice calm. I found him like this, nothing could save him. The footsteps paused. Voices argued. Skeptical. Confused. Slowly, their leaders called for reinforcements, muttering that they would search again tomorrow. The hut fell silent, save for Lyra's rapid heartbeat and the shallow breaths of the Alpha King. They had been spared, for now. Lyra sank onto the floor beside him, pressing her hand to her belly. The baby kicked again. The king's eyes softened slightly, awe and disbelief mixing with something unspoken. You risked your life, he murmured, voice low, almost a growl. For me. Lyra shook her head, swallowing the lump in her throat. I couldn't let you die. Not here. Not like this. The hut was quiet now. Outside, the forest whispered secrets, plotting their next move. The Alpha's hand brushed hers, tentative at first, then pulsing with that same faint golden glow that had first stitched his wound. Why would you risk your life for me? He asked, voice rough, filled with curiosity and something deeper, hunger, awe, and confusion. Lyra froze, their hands touching, the glow between them sparking into something neither fully understood. Outside the hut, a shadow shifted among the trees, the sound of a wolf's growl echoed, and Lyra realized, they were not alone. The hut was silent except for the shallow breathing of the Alpha King and the soft rustle of the wind outside. Lyra's hand still hovered near his, trembling. She had never imagined her life could intertwine so violently with an alpha, yet something invisible pulled them together, stronger than fear, stronger than reason. The king's golden eyes glimmered, unreadable, as he shifted to sit against the wall. "You deserve to know," he said, voice low and bitter. "I am cursed. My own bloodline is rotting from within. Every alpha born to my line carries the decay of betrayal, of lust for power, of greed." Lyra's pulse quickened. She had heard of curses whispered in legend, but never in flesh, never in the trembling of a man so alive yet so fragile. And only, his gaze locked onto hers, molten and piercing. Only the bond of a pure omega can cleanse it. No alpha, no healer, no magic, only one like you. Lyra's stomach fluttered as her child kicked, the baby responding to the tension in the room, the pull between the two of them. Her palm tingled as she pressed it to the king's chest once more. Light coursed between them, golden and alive, revealing the truth she had never known. Her blood carried the power of an ancient lineage, a bloodline long hunted and feared by alphas. The king's eyes widened in disbelief. You're what they've been searching for all these years." She swallowed, trembling. I don't understand." He reached for her hand, and again the golden glow ignited where their skin met. An invisible tether stretched between them, binding their fates in ways neither could deny. Hours passed in tense quiet. Shadows crept across the hut as the forest shifted. Lyra felt the pull again, a whisper in her mind, a tug in her blood. She realized that even while alive, the king's instincts were not his own. The curse demanded movement, demanded action, demanded survival, and it was drawing him outward. That night, Lyra awoke with a start. The hut was empty. The golden glow of his presence had vanished. Her heart thundered. She knew, cursed or not, the king had followed his instincts, leaving her behind, straight into the teeth of danger. Somewhere beyond the trees, the sound of snarling wolves and snapping twigs warned her, the king had walked into an ambush, and she could only follow, powerless and terrified. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest as she sprinted through the forest, the moonlight catching her cloak and illuminating the path ahead. Every snap of a twig, every whisper of wind made her flinch, and yet, she could hear him. His groans, his low growls, the unmistakable rhythm of his wolf within, calling for her. The ambushers circled the clearing, a band of rogue wolves loyal to the cursed pack, their eyes gleaming with hatred. Lyra skidded to a halt, clutching her belly, breath ragged. Fear gripped her like ice, but instinct surged stronger. Her hand trembled, and instinctively, she pressed it to the ground. A soft glow emerged, faint at first, then blazing like molten silver. Light arced outward, pushing back the attackers, forcing them to shield their eyes. Shock rippled through her, she had done this before, but never with such power. The king staggered to his feet, eyes wide in awe as the golden glow merged with Lyra's silver light. The wolf inside him howled, low, deep, and reverent. For the first time, the Alpha recognized the Omega before him not as weak, not as lowborn, but as his fated bond. He stepped forward, powerful and commanding. "No harm will come to you," he vowed, voice low, tempered with raw authority. "I will protect you, always." Lyra's chest heaved. Relief surged, but doubt lingered, the king's gaze hardened. "But I will never accept a lowborn Omega as my mate." His words cut deep, though his hand hovered near hers, reluctant to let go. Before she could answer, a shadow moved at the edge of the clearing. Lyra froze, her past, the one she had tried to bury, stepped forward. A tall, dark alpha wolf with eyes familiar and dangerous, her first love, the one she had fled to survive. He approached, chest heaving, nostrils flaring. "I've been looking for you," he growled, voice thick with anger and longing. "And I know the truth." His gaze fell to her belly. "That child, mine." Lyra's world tilted. Every heartbeat of her unborn baby pulsed like a drum of warning. The king's growl rumbled deep in his chest, his golden eyes flashing with fury and confusion. The forest held its breath. 3 hearts, her own, the Alpha King's, and the rebel wolf's, collided in tension sharper than any blade. And as the moonlight bathed them, the king whispered, more to himself than anyone else, "I will not let you take her, or that child." Lyra realized she was caught between 2 powerful alphas, and the forest whispered, only one would leave this night alive. The forest seemed to tighten around them, shadows stretching long and sharp under the moonlight. Lyra's breaths came in ragged gasps as the 2 alphas faced each other, the king with his molten gold eyes, furious and protective, the rebel with a storm of longing and accusation in his gaze. Lyra clutched her belly, trembling. You're wrong," she whispered, voice barely audible. "This child, it isn't his." The rebel faltered, confusion flashing over his face. "Then whose?" Her gaze fell on the king. "It's the result of an alpha. Months ago, during the attack, when I was captured. I had no choice." Her voice cracked. "I survived, for this child." The king's golden eyes softened, pain and understanding flickering through the fire of his rage. His hands hovered over hers, hesitant, unsure if he could touch her. "Then, you suffered all this alone," he murmured, almost to himself. But outside their fragile bubble, the Alpha King's own pack whispered and watched, seeing the Omega as tainted, unworthy. Their stares burned into her like cold steel. Whispers of betrayal, impurity, and danger spread through the shadows. The king's wolf stirred, restless, sensing the curse deepening inside him. Every second he denied the bond forming between them, the rot inside him surged, faster, stronger, hungrier. Lyra's blood pulsed in response, glowing faintly against the threat of the curse. "You cannot deny it forever," Lyra said softly, almost pleading. "It's not just your life at stake, it's all of ours." Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush snapped their attention. The rebel's pride and defiance turned to panic as armored hands gripped him, dragging him away toward unseen captors. His growl reverberated in Lyra's chest. Before he disappeared into the darkness, his eyes met hers. "The curse," he hissed, voice sharp, urgent. "It's linked to your child. Do not ignore it, or the king will lose more than his life." Lyra's blood ran cold. Every instinct screamed danger, not just to the king, not just to herself, but to the child she carried, glowing faintly inside her as if it knew the truth before she did. The forest seemed to shiver, shadows twisting into something alive. The king's hands glowed faintly where they hovered near hers, the unclaimed bond between them trembling with tension. And in the distance, the rebel's warning echoed in her mind, "The curse follows the bloodline, and the child is the key." Lyra's gaze turned toward the path the rebel had vanished into, the forest whispered that danger was approaching, one that could destroy them all. The forest lay heavy with mist, silence pressing against the tiny hut where Lyra and the Alpha King had retreated. Shadows twisted like living things, whispering of danger and of a future none dared imagine. The rebel's warning still echoed in Lyra's mind, chilling her blood. The next day, guided by desperation and fragments of instinct, the king brought Lyra to an ancient seer, a woman shrouded in veils, whose eyes seemed to see through the bones of the earth. The hut smelled of herbs, blood, and old magic. She studied Lyra with unflinching intensity. "The child in your womb," she rasped, "is no ordinary one. It is the heart of the moon. Born under its glow, this child could either cleanse the curse that plagues your bloodline, or destroy every alpha alive. The fate of your pack, your kingdom, all hinges on this child." Lyra's heart stopped. The baby kicked, responding to the words, as if it understood the weight of destiny pressing down on her fragile body. The king's golden eyes darkened. His jaw tightened. He had seen his pack turn against him, his bloodline rot from within, and now, the life he wanted to protect could become the very instrument of his people's destruction. "Do you understand?" the seer whispered, her gaze piercing. "This child is the key. You must choose whether to protect it, or risk everything by destroying it." The king's fists clenched, veins pulsing as the cursed power inside him stirred with impatience and rage. The glow from Lyra's blood on his hands flared faintly, tethering them in an invisible web of fate. Outside, the forest stirred. The distant howl of the rebels' wolves echoed through the trees, a reminder that enemies and allies alike were circling closer. Every heartbeat Lyra felt in her belly seemed to answer the king's own, syncing with the pulse of destiny itself. For the first time, he allowed himself a whisper, not to her, but to the shadows, to the weight of responsibility pressing upon him. "If I must. I will." Lyra froze. Her hands tightened over her womb. The words sliced through her like steel. "If I must kill to save my people, I will." The forest held its breath. The king's golden eyes, normally blazing with power, were now a storm of fear, determination, and a terrifying resolve. Lyra realized the Alpha King, the man she had saved, might see her child not as a miracle, but as a threat that could destroy everything he loved. The forest seemed alive with whispers of destiny and danger. Lyra's chest heaved as she fled, the weight of her unborn child pressing into her, a beacon of life and power that others would kill to claim. Behind her, the Alpha King's footsteps thundered, heavy, relentless, a storm chasing her through the night. Branches clawed at her cloak, roots threatening to trip her as she sprinted, heart hammering. Every sense screamed danger, the rebel wolf stalking the shadows, the cursed seer's faint, eerie chant floating through the trees, and the distant, metallic clink of bounty hunters closing in. Lyra's hand instinctively pressed against her belly. The baby kicked, thrumming like a warning drum. Her blood pulsed in response, a faint glow illuminating the mist around her, betraying her path to anyone hunting her. The Alpha King appeared behind her, golden eyes burning through the mist. "Lyra! Stop!" he roared, voice heavy with both fear and fury. "You don't understand, if you run, you'll doom us both." She skidded to a halt, tears streaking her dirt-smudged face. "I can't. I won't let them use my child as a weapon. Even for you." He hesitated, torn. Every fiber of him ached to take her into his arms, to protect her, to claim her as his mate. But the curse, the prophecy, and the whisper of his people demanded restraint. The chase was no longer just survival, it was destiny pressing them to the edge. A howl split the night, the rebel wolves flanking her, cutting off escape routes. The cursed seer appeared between the trees, arms raised, whispering incantations that bent the mist into illusions of death and despair. Bounty hunters pressed from the far side, eyes gleaming, weapons ready. Lyra's pulse spiked. She ran blindly, twisting and dodging, but the forest itself seemed to conspire against her. The Alpha King's steps thundered behind her, his wolf growling in frustration, unable to touch her without risking the curse's acceleration. Ahead, a frozen river stretched like a ribbon of glass beneath the blood-red moon. Desperation overtook her. She leapt, heart pounding, baby pressing hard against her womb, and vanished beneath the ice. The forest fell silent. The Alpha King skidded to the riverbank, claws scraping against frozen stone. Golden eyes flared with rage and panic. Lyra had vanished under the ice, and the blood moon bathed the forest in crimson light, a warning that the prophecy was about to ignite. Weeks had passed since the blood-red moon swallowed Lyra beneath the frozen river. The Alpha King's golden eyes had scoured every shadow, every riverbed, every forest, yet she was gone, vanished like a ghost. Despair clawed at him, a gnawing hunger of regret and rage that refused to be sated. He followed rumors of a nomad tribe that whispered of a moonbearer, a pregnant omega with hair like starlight and a glow in her belly that healed, cursed, and awed all who saw it. They said she walked with power beyond reckoning, untouched by wolves or men, protected by the spirits of the forest itself. When he arrived at their hidden camp, Lyra stood before him, but she was no longer the frightened, poor Omega he had saved. Her eyes were sharper, her movements deliberate, and her aura hummed with energy. A faint light pulsed from her womb, visible even under the night sky. "Lyra," he whispered, stepping forward, golden eyes softening. "I thought I lost you." She turned, hands on her belly, stance defensive. "You lost me," she snapped. "And I've learned to survive without you. My child, my bloodline, will not be used as a weapon by wolves or men." Her voice was steel and fire, echoing through the clearing. The king's heart twisted. He wanted to reach for her, to claim her, to protect her, but he could not. The curse still lingered, his people still waited, and the prophecy loomed. Every decision now weighed in golden balance between life and destruction. Lyra stepped closer to the fire, letting her aura shine. The tribe watched in awe as the faint glow from her belly pulsed stronger with each breath. Her power had awakened fully, she could feel it in every heartbeat of the child she carried, in the thrum of the earth beneath her feet, and in the energy that rippled through the forest. The king took a cautious step forward, sensing the invisible tether still binding them, but Lyra flinched. "Stay back," she said, voice trembling with authority. "If you come near, I cannot promise safety, for either of us." A low rumble echoed from the trees. The unborn child kicked, harder this time, and the sound merged with the distant howling of wolves. Lyra's eyes widened, fear and awe flashing together. The heartbeat of her child, the moonborn, was awakening, and it called to every alpha in the forest, including him. The child's first cry of power resonated like a drum of destiny, warning all that the moonborn had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The forest trembled under the blood-red glow of the moon. Lyra's breath came in ragged gasps as she clutched her swollen belly. The distant sound of wolves and men clashing echoed through the trees, rebel forces attacking the nomad tribe who had sheltered her. Every shadow seemed alive with death. Lyra's hands pressed to her womb as pain rippled through her body. Her child stirred with urgent energy, pulsing a soft, silver glow against her skin. The tribe scrambled to defend themselves, arrows flying and swords clashing, but the glow from her belly seemed to shield them, bending the chaos around her like a living barrier. Then, a thunderous roar cut through the night. The Alpha King arrived, leaping into the fray, his golden eyes blazing with fury and desperation. He fought through the chaos, torn between his duty as king and the raw, unyielding need to reach her. Every rebel he struck brought him closer, yet his worry for her safety deepened with each heartbeat. Lyra collapsed onto the ground, gripping her belly as the first pangs of labor took hold. The king reached her side, hands hovering, uncertain. "Lyra. I'll protect you. I swear," he whispered, voice thick with emotion, the golden glow of his wolf pulsing as he tried to keep the curse at bay. She looked up, tears streaking her face. "It's happening now," she gasped. Her child's glow flared brighter, illuminating the battlefield with silver light, and for a moment, the fighting paused as both rebels and nomads watched in awe. Pain and power collided as Lyra cried out. The child emerged into the world, eyes closed but shining with pure silver light. The prophecy had been fulfilled, the heart of the moon had been born. The glow surged outward, washing over the king, the tribe, and even the fallen rebels. The curse that had haunted generations pulsed, then hesitated. The king's arm throbbed with the familiar mark of decay, golden veins crawling across his skin. He gasped, the pain sharp, almost unbearable. Then, as the infant opened its eyes for the first time, silver light shot outward. The curse mark on the king's arm vanished, as if erased by the very soul of the child. Both awe and terror gripped the forest, the moonborn had awakened, the curse was undone, but something ancient stirred in the shadows, watching, waiting. The battlefield lay quiet, bathed in the silvery glow of the newborn moonborn. Rebels and nomads alike stared in awe, breaths caught, weapons lowered. The Alpha King knelt beside Lyra, golden eyes scanning the infant whose faint light pulsed like the heartbeat of the entire forest. At first, the glow was gentle, warming the air and softening the tension in the forest. But then it spread, faster than anyone could have imagined. The silver light extended beyond the clearing, flowing like liquid moonlight over mountains and valleys. Alphas in nearby packs screamed as the curse within them ignited violently, feeding on fear, pain, and lingering hatred. The king's heart clenched as he witnessed the devastation. Lyra, the child, it's feeding on pain, on suffering, he whispered, voice trembling. If we don't contain it, it could annihilate the alpha lines across the realm. Lyra's face paled. Her hands trembled over her child. What do we do? She asked, fear cutting through awe. Her child kicked, and the silver light flared in response, almost sentient, a force of both love and destruction. The king rose, golden aura flaring around him. He placed a hand gently over the child's, feeling the pulse of its power. Lyra. I must contain it. I must, he said, his voice a mix of authority, desperation, and heartbreak. But, his gaze darkened. It may cost its life. Lyra's hands clutched the child closer. No. I won't let you touch it. This is my child, our child. Tears streaked her face as she stared into the glowing silver eyes, feeling the immense power thrumming beneath her fingertips. The forest quivered as the child's aura expanded uncontrollably. Trees bent, animals fled, and distant mountains shimmered with the Moonborn's energy. It was beautiful, terrifying, unstoppable. Then, soft but undeniable, a sound split the air, a word spoken not in fear, not in instinct, but in clarity. Father. The Alpha King froze. His wolf growled low, deep, submissive, curling into him as though acknowledging a master it had never known it needed. Lyra gasped, heart pounding. Did it just? The king's eyes blazed with shock, awe, and something deeper, a dawning realization that this child, this Moonborn, was not only their salvation, but also their master. The child had spoken, calling the king, Father, and in that instant, the forest knew, nothing would ever be the same, and powers older than the curse itself were awakening. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The Moonborn's silver glow had faded to a soft pulse, and the Alpha King stood beside Lyra, still trembling from the child's first word. A fragile peace hovered, but it shattered with a single, sinister laugh. From the shadows, the seer emerged, her veiled eyes glinting with malice and certainty. You were fools, she hissed, voice like silk and poison. Everything, the curse, the bond, the child, all orchestrated. Lyra staggered back, disbelief twisting her stomach. What are you saying? She whispered. Her heart pounded, her child nestled close, the silver light now a small but insistent heartbeat against her chest. The seer stepped closer, voice dripping with dark satisfaction. This child was never meant to save him. Never meant to heal the curse. The Moonborn was meant to replace the king, to inherit his throne, his power, his life. The Alpha King's golden eyes flared, fury and betrayal colliding. You dare manipulate fate, he roared, claws scraping the forest floor as the air shimmered with his anger. He lunged toward the seer, intent on vengeance. But in a blur of shadows and incantations, she vanished, taking the child with her. Lyra screamed, clutching at empty air, the glow of the Moonborn now gone. No, she cried, spinning toward the king. Her voice trembled with anger and heartbreak. You let this happen. The king froze, eyes wide, caught between rage at the seer, grief for the child, and the impossible guilt pressing against his chest. Lyra. Lyra shook her head, tears streaking her face. Save your excuses. You failed. You failed our child. Every word struck him like a blade, the bond between them fraying under grief, fear, and mistrust. The forest seemed to echo her anguish, branches shivering as though mourning the stolen infant. Even the wolf within him growled low, uneasy, sensing the dark threads of fate twisting further out of control. Lyra backed away, fists clenched, eyes blazing with fury. If you loved me, you would have stopped her. The king's roar shook the air, gold and fire clashing with the sorrow in her voice. But the forest was silent except for the fading echo of the seer's laughter, and the knowledge that the child, the moonborn, had vanished into darkness. Lyra turned on the king, heart shattered and trust broken, as the fate of the moonborn hung in the hands of an enemy who knew every secret of their blood. The night after the seer vanished, the realm fractured. Trust died before dawn. Lyra, broken by grief and rage, walked away from the king's side. The bond that once pulsed between them grew cold. Word spread like wildfire, the moonborn was gone, the curse returned, and the king's bloodline was failing. Soon, the mountains burned. Cursed alphas, their minds twisted by the fading spell, rose against the throne. Rebels saw their chance. And in the shadows, omegas, once slaves to pack law, began to follow a new name whispered among them, the mother of the moonborn. Lyra hadn't asked for it, but desperation turned her sorrow into strength. Her pain became fire. She gathered the broken, the weak, the forgotten, and forged them into an army. They wore no crowns, no marks, only a single oath: no child of the moon will ever be hunted again. Meanwhile, the Alpha King stood in the ruins of his court, watching blood stain the banners of his ancestors. His generals deserted, his own wolf restless within him. Yet even now, he refused to let go of Lyra, or their child. If war is what fate demands, he growled, then I'll fight it, for her. The world split in two, the king's loyalists versus Lyra's rising rebellion. Each moon brought fresh battle cries that echoed across blood-soaked plains. The ground trembled with the fury of wolves who no longer knew whom to serve, love or vengeance. When the armies finally clashed beneath the crimson eclipse, it was chaos. Flames devoured the forest where Lyra had once saved the king's life. Her voice, steady and resolute, rose above the war: "We are not slaves to the moon's curse, we are its heart." The king heard her words from across the battlefield, and something inside him broke. He fought through steel and claws just to reach her, his heart torn between crown and bond. Their eyes met through the chaos, two fates colliding once more. But before either could speak, the sky shattered with light. The moon turned silver-white, blinding every wolf in sight. Then, a child's voice echoed. Soft. Ancient. Impossible. Both armies froze. From the heart of the battlefield, a small figure emerged, barefoot, glowing faintly, eyes the color of dawn. It was the moonborn. But no longer an infant. A child, 5 years old, though only a single night had passed. The battlefield fell to silence. Lyra's breath caught. The king's hand trembled. And as the child smiled, the mark of the curse reappeared, burning on both their arms. The moonborn had returned, changed, and no longer just theirs. The battlefield stood frozen beneath the pale, trembling moon. No sword clashed. No wolf dared breathe. Every gaze turned toward the child, the moonborn, who glowed like a living star amid the ruin. Its eyes held both innocence and ancient fury, and when it spoke, its voice carried the echo of gods long dead. Mother. Father. The words shattered the silence like a prophecy fulfilled. Lyra fell to her knees, tears tracing dirt-streaked cheeks. The king took a step forward, his wolf stirring violently within. The child's aura pulsed, a strange mixture of warmth and dread, casting shifting light across the blood-soaked ground. I am the balance, the child said softly. The light that remembers. The darkness that was betrayed. Its gaze turned between them, the mother who defied fate, and the king who once cursed his own soul. You will unite, or you will end. Lyra's heart trembled. She could feel it, the curse, restless beneath her skin, feeding on their fear. "We can end this," she whispered. "Together." But the king's pride was a blade sharpened by centuries of loss. "Together," he said bitterly. "You don't trust me. You blamed me for losing our child." "I did lose you," Lyra snapped, rising to meet his golden eyes. "Every time you chose the crown over us." The Moonborn raised its small hand, and the ground cracked, splitting the battlefield in two. "Love, or perish." The voice was neither kind nor cruel. It was divine command. The king's wolf howled from within, unable to resist. The bond between them reignited, burning hotter than before. In that instant, the Alpha King dropped his sword, his knees sinking into the earth before her. "Then let it be love," he said, his voice breaking. "If my vow can bind the curse, then I vow myself to you, Lyra. Not as a king. Not as a wolf. But as a man." The Moonborn's light dimmed, almost smiling. Lyra, trembling, pressed her forehead to his. For the first time, their hearts beat in rhythm, and the curse recoiled like a wounded beast. But as their love sealed the bond, the moon above them began to bleed. A great tremor rolled through the sky, splitting the clouds apart. The Moonborn looked upward, horror dawning in its celestial eyes. "You waited too long," it whispered. The moon cracked. A line of pure white light split its surface, one half shining gold, the other turning black as ash. The night howled in pain. Lyra clutched the king's hand. "What have we done?" The child's glow flared violently, wings of light unfurling behind it. "The final awakening has begun. The moon has split in two, and with it, the curse of the Alpha's soul is reborn." The moon hung broken above the kingdom, half blazing gold, half shrouded in shadow. Its fractured light poured over the battlefield where Lyra, the Alpha King, and the Moonborn stood at the heart of destiny's storm. The air trembled with screams of dying stars. Magic tore through the sky, ripping open ancient wounds between light and darkness. The Moonborn's wings burned with silver fire, its young face twisted in agony. "Mother, the curse is alive again," it whispered. "It feeds on what you love most." Lyra turned to the king, his eyes wild with pain as dark veins of corruption crawled back across his skin. The curse, once dormant, surged through his blood like living night. His wolf howled, breaking the silence. "No," Lyra breathed, her hands trembling as she reached for him. "Not again." The Moonborn fell to its knees, clutching its chest. Only one heart can bear both the curse and the light. Realization struck Lyra like lightning. Her ancient blood, the same that once healed him, could also end everything. The price would be her life. The king staggered forward, shaking his head. "You will not take this from me. I just found you again." She smiled softly, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You didn't find me, Kale. You remembered me. And that's enough." Before he could stop her, Lyra pressed her glowing palms against his chest. Her blood lit up like liquid moonlight, veins of gold threading into his heart. The curse screamed, a sound like shattered glass and thunder. The ground split. The moon's halves pulsed in rhythm with her fading heartbeat. The king roared in despair as Lyra's body dissolved into radiance. Her voice echoed through the storm, calm and eternal. "Remember love, and you'll remember me." Light erupted, sweeping across the kingdom, cleansing the curse from every alpha, every wolf, every soul still bound by darkness. When the brilliance faded, the king collapsed, alive, but alone beneath the silent, mended moon. Years passed. The realm healed. Under the soft silver glow, the Moonborn, no longer a child but a ruler, sat upon the restored throne. Its eyes shimmered with both its parents' fire. Looking up at the moon, it whispered, "Mother is watching." The wind carried a warmth unseen for generations, brushing over the land like a familiar caress. The king's crown rested beside the throne, untouched but not forgotten. And then, the moon flickered. A silhouette formed within its glow, slender, luminous, unmistakably her. Lyra. Her outline turned slightly, as if smiling. The moon remembered love, and Lyra remembers the world that forgot her.